Yeah, I'm at a standing desk. No big deal. Hashtag FitFam. Hashtag New Year, New Me. Hashtag I'm probably going to go get Chipotle after this anyway. Hashtag there is no standing desk microphone, so I'm holding this like an idiot. Perfect. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a busy few days here. I'm not going to talk about Duncan McGuire today because I refuse to. I've put a lot of time into Duncan McGuire and his potentially failed move to Blackburn Rovers because of administrative error by the English club on the second time this deal is on the brink of collapse. You can read about that on The Athletic. You can listen to any one of these previous videos in which I talk too much about Duncan McGuire, so no more. This is all you're getting. Today we're going to talk about some other forwards, more on the incoming side for MLS clubs. Orlando City are nearing a deal to sign Colombia international Luis Muriel from Atalanta. Chicago Fire have confirmed their club record deal to sign Hugo Cuypers from Ghent. And CF Montréal has signed former MLS MVP, MLS Cup winner, legend Josef Martinez. Let's break down what all three of these deals mean, how they came to be, and everything else. I'm going to start with Luis Muriel to Orlando City. The latest news here, according to sources, is that a deal has been agreed between all parties for Orlando to sign Luis Muriel from Atalanta in an immediate permanent deal. His contract is up in the summer. The player has agreed to everything. He's okayed the move, and the club will pay around $1 million US to sign him right now. It's the exact number is 1 million euro, which is about 1.08 million US dollars. But you get the point. We don't need to go that far into the weeds. The news is, barring any hiccups, last-minute hurdles, Orlando City will sign Luis Muriel to a DP deal. And I trust that, unlike Blackburn, they know how to file paperwork on time. That's not going to be a worry anyway, because the MLS transfer window is open until nearly the end of April. So even if they do F up the paperwork, they got plenty of time to redo it and then redo it again. They don't have a deadline here. They got the deal done early. Luis Muriel, for those who play the popular FIFA video game, now called EAFC, will remember that this dude is a legend for his athletic ability and finishing ability. He was a very fun card to use. For those who actually watch soccer, Atalanta, he was kind of the face of that Atalanta team a few years ago. As I'm pulling up his stats here, over his first 2 seasons with the club, he had 40 goals and 10 assists and 70 appearances or whatever. He was awesome. He is awesome. He's been solid, but his playing time has decreased, particularly this year. Last year, he's still been productive goals to minutes ratio. Like, he had 3 goals and 4 assists and 1,000 minutes in 22-23. That's pretty solid, but clearly that's not a consistent or regular starter. This year, it's been even less. He has 2 goals and 1 assist in just under 400 league minutes and 4 goals in 270 Europa League minutes. So he's still productive. He's just not first choice at the club. So he's obviously looking to go somewhere where he'll play regularly, where obviously he's going to get a nice payday here in Orlando City, and he'll be the man up top. So again, I'm pulling up the per 90 stats and grain of salt in terms of sample size, but look at the numbers in the Europa League this year. Again, it's only 270 minutes or whatever, but he ranks really, really favorably in the Europa League, which should translate very well to MLS. It kind of shows that he still has plenty left in the tank. And here's kind of his numbers from the 21-22 season, where again he had 1,500 minutes. Where again that's still not 3,000 or whatever, right? But like that's a big enough sample size to show like, hey, this is still what he's got, and this is going to be a very good signing in this league, as far as I'm concerned, at least. He was likely to join kind of a star-studded attack that's led by Facundo Torres, that's added Nico Ladero this year. It has last year's key signing, Martin Ojeda, getting his second season in MLS, and Ivan Angulo is back on a permanent deal. So Oscar Pereira has plenty to choose from. We still don't know what's exactly going to happen with Duncan McGuire, so he could be back in the mix as well. But Orlando City look really, really strong right now, and this is a really, really good team and a really good signing. Look, the way that they made this work in terms of roster moves, they already have 2 senior DPs that cannot be bought down. To use all 3 U22 initiative slots, an MLS team their third DP has to either be a young DP or somebody under the max TAM. In so many words here, for Orlando to sign a player like Muriel, who's not a young DP and will be over the max TAM threshold, they needed to go from 3 U22 initiative players to 1. They've already gone down to 2 by loaning out Gaston Gonzalez to South America. And now that means that they just need to buy down one of their other 2 U22 initiative players, be that Araujo or Ramiro Enrique. I'm assuming Araujo because he's been here longer and the transfer fee was smaller. So that just means that they need the allocation money. And it's something that at the beginning of the offseason, if you asked me if this was possible, I would have said maybe possible, but definitely not likely. over the last month. Well done by the Orlando City front office to be able to be in this position to sign Luis Muriel and bring in this marquee signing to the club and kind of finesse it with the transfer, with the salary cap. Again, the attack also has Nico Ladero, who was signed this offseason as a free agent. And just between all of these options, it's really important, again, particularly with players of Nico Ladero and Luis Muriel's age, like Ladero turned 35 this year and Muriel's going to turn 33. They need to be fresh by the time the playoffs come around. And with all these options in the team, they should be fresh as long as Oscar Pereira rotates, which he did very, very well, particularly towards the end of last year, and they kept on picking up points. Martino Ojeda would be starting when Facundo Torres was coming back from international duty. Again, Oscar Pereira has already shown that he was able to navigate that last year, and that's something I'm looking forward to this year. Again, the big picture, Luis Muriel joining an attack with Facundo Torres, Martino Ojeda, Nico Ladero, and even Angulo. Like, it's looking really exciting for Orlando City in 2024. The second big transfer to talk about today, and this one is done. There is no more sourcing reports or rumors. Chicago Fire has completed a club record deal to sign Hugo Cuypers from Ghent. The Belgian forward, he's turning 27 on Wednesday. So happy birthday to you, Hugo, for getting this big deal done to the Chicago Fire. The deal is worth $12 million up front plus another $2 million in add-ons, sources say. That makes it the fifth most expensive deal in MLS history, and if the add-ons are hit, it would become the fourth most expensive deal in MLS history. So this is, look, ambition you can never question Chicago with. They have spent money, whether good, bad, or indifferent. They continue to try. They continue to push. And look, the more times you try, the more likelihood that it's going to come good. So Chicago's latest big signing is Hugo Cuypers. And let's pull up his stats. He had 20 goals and 4 assists. And let's pull up his stats. He had 27 goals and 8 assists last year in 39 appearances. This was his big breakout year. He was a bit of a late bloomer. He'd been bounced around Belgium a little bit, started to get better, and that was his kind of first full season with Ghent, and he exploded. This year has been kind of similar. He hasn't quite hit that height, but he's been very, very good. Here's his stats kind of from last year. And again, look at this. 85th percentile in non-penalty goals per 90. 94th percentile in non-penalty expected goals. Non-penalty expected goals plus expected assists. Look at all of this. He receives the ball in the penalty area. He has really good numbers against the ball in defense. Like, this is a player that Chicago are hoping will remodel their attack. For me, they still need another kind of big-time chance creator. Brian Gutierrez is a very good player, but I don't think it's fair to ask a 20, 21-year-old to kind of carry that burden alone if Xherdan Shaqiri isn't going to kind of pull his weight. That will be determined if they can find a suitor for Jairo Torres. No deal got done on deadline day in Mexico, though a couple deals did get very close. It came down to the wire, but the Chicago Fire were not able to transfer out Jairo Torres before the deadline in Mexico. There are windows still open, including in Switzerland, where Chicago's sister club, FC Lugano, reside. So we'll see what happens there. If Chicago indeed are able to get Jairo Torres off the books, they would open up another DP spot, and they could add another big-time attacker in addition to Hugo Cuypers. But for now, the attack looks like a 4-2-3-1 with Gutierrez, Shaqiri, and Haile Selassie or Chris Mueller underneath Hugo Cuypers. And that's a strong attack, right? Like, all they need to do is be able to get chances for Hugo Cuypers. And again, I know that I have emotional ties to former Liverpool player Xherdan Shaqiri. But man, like, when he's on, he's still a good player in this league. Like, he can be. He's not quite the $7.5 million transfer fee and salary that he's on. But like, dude, there's moments, there's flashes, and let's see what he maybe looks like in a more competitive team next year, or if he kind of feels like he has something to prove after, look, 2 disappointing seasons with Chicago. So I'm excited to see what happens with the Chicago Fire. The fine print on this deal is that it doesn't start technically until February 16th. That was during the talks with Ghent. That was something that was non-negotiable. They have a forward that is at the African Cup of Nations, and they sold another player. So the whole point was, look, if we do this deal, he has to stay with us until mid-February, which Chicago's like, fine. Like, our season doesn't start until the 24th anyway. The visa process is already ongoing. So the idea is that he'll have a full week of training under his belt with Chicago before the team's season opener on the 24th of February. So if all goes well, and again, that's a big if with the registration and visa stuff, as we've seen with Duncan McGuire and other MLS signings, if all goes well, he should be available for selection with the club's debut in 2024, and that's big to kind of hit the ground running and get his feet under him with some training sessions before that potential debut. Chicago Fire, club record signing, one of the most expensive signings in league history. Deal for Hugo Cuypers is done, announced, and he will join the team in training over the next few weeks. One more big deal for center forward that has gone official today. Josef Martinez to CF Montreal, free agent forward, Venezuelan international. He signs in Montreal, which is a bit of a surprise, I think, to all of us. But the background story here is the market for Josef Martinez wasn't really robust, which is, again, very sad just what's happened since he tore his ACL and the knee complications that happened since that 2020 injury. Look, Josef Martinez on his day, straight up one of the best players the league has ever seen. He's one of the most accomplished players the league has ever seen. He's 30 years old. I'm always going to be rooting for him to rediscover some semblance of what he was from 2017 to 2019 because, my God, he was incredible. His character, his everything about him on the field, off the field, his demeanor, he was awesome. He is awesome. I still root like hell for Josef Martinez from that. But Montreal have signed the center forward in a low-risk deal. Honestly, it's a one-year deal. Montreal had the room. They still have the allocation money from all of those sales that they made from the Wilfred Nancy era of Ismail Kone and Georgi Mihailovic and Alistair Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. So they could kind of take this gamble. They can also take this gamble because he's not really going to be slated to be their starting center forward for me. It's Kokoro. Jeez. He's not really going to be slated to be their starting center forward for me. It's going to be Kokoro. And again, they signed a Bulgarian international Yankov as well. And Mahalo Poku was acquired last year. This team works in the 3-4-2-1, 3-4 or 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it, under new coach Laurent Courtois this year. I like the options. Again, you bet on talent. He's always going to keep getting chances in this league, or maybe not after this, depending on how he looks in Montreal. But look, he wasn't great over the last two seasons. He spent 2023 with Inter Miami. That was a difficult situation. There wasn't a lot of chance creation before Lionel Messi arrived in the summer, and even at that, the Leagues Cup was kind of the best representation of that team. He had 3 goals and 2 assists in 470 minutes in the Leagues Cup. In regular season, he still had 7 goals and 1 assist in 1,700 minutes. I'm pulling up his advanced stats right now, which do not look great. Just look at all that red rather than green. But his box score numbers, he still scored goals, man. And that's really what Montreal needed. They needed more options up top. I'm a believer in Kokoro. Again, I think that he's going to be their first choice forward. But getting another goal scorer to add to the mix is not a bad idea. And look, if it works out, it's going to be great. And if it doesn't, they can just kind of wipe their hands and say, hey, we tried. Good luck wherever you go next, Joseph, because it's only a one-year deal. I really like what Montreal has done this offseason. It's been low-key. It's been under the radar for this club because the names aren't huge in Kokoro and Yankov and Laurent Courtois. Like, those are their 3 biggest moves. This Josef Martinez news is going to get the most headlines, the most interactions because of his name, because he's a former MLS MVP, former MLS Cup winner, everything else that comes with Josef Martinez. But he's not their biggest signing this offseason. Again, I like this deal in terms of it being low risk. I'm going to root like hell for Josef Martinez to rediscover what he had in Atlanta. So we'll see. But again, like, look at this depth chart. There's a lot to like in this team. Again, I've said it before numerous times. I'm a big fan of Laurent Courtois. I think that was a really good hire by CF Montreal. I really like him being able to work with so much young talent, so much, I guess, ambiguous talent in that they can be amorphous. I like that there's so much amorphous talent in this team. Again, it could be a 3-4-2-1. It could be a 3-5-2. Kokoro is somebody who his numbers in terms of ground covering and defensive work is really strong. You could play him and Joseph together if that's what Laurent Courtois wants to do. Or maybe you could play Opoku, Kokoro, and Joseph together and kind of sit Yankov, who's the more traditional number 10. There's Bryce Duke in this team. There's so many options. Like, I really like what Montreal could do. I think that this team is going to be much more enjoyable to watch than they were last year under Hernan Losada, just because the style of play is going to be much more fun, and I think the players really fit. Again, Mahalo Opoku fits better probably into like a transition up-tempo type of team with Losada, but his best games came with LAFC, where they played kind of more possession. Again, I know Steve Cherundolo, they leaned him much more into transition, but I just think a lot of these players fit very well. The wingbacks being Juan and Raheem Edwards, they're up and down. They got to get end line to end line. I think Raheem Edwards fits much better as a wingback than he does as a left back in a back 4 or a winger in like a 4-3-3, right? Like, so I think this is the perfect spot for him. I don't know. I'm just very interested to watch this team, and I'm excited to, hopefully there's a comeback trail for Josef Martinez. That'll do it today. I've mapped out kind of a schedule to try to keep things aligned, but look, this is still the time of a bunch of news, so a lot of things are going to come up. I didn't know I was going to do this video today. Here we are. You got to roll with the punches, right? We'll see what happens next. I'm going to have a power rankings update at some point the week before the season starts. That's only a couple weeks away, man. CONCACAF Champions Cup is starting this week. It's crazy. Season's about to be here already before we know it. I'm off to Coachella at the end of the week to watch some MLS preseason. No, not going to Joshua Tree to go see, this beautiful outdoors nature like most people do. No, I'm not going to Coachella for the world-renowned music festival. I'm going to Coachella for a gosh darn MLS preseason tournament because I'm a psychopath and I'm a sicko. And that's what we'll have. Maybe we'll have an update from Coachella. I am looking forward to it. I'm spending Super Bowl Sunday by myself in a hotel room, or maybe watching with somebody from MLS. I hope it's the latter, where I got to find another NFL fan to watch the Super Bowl from, but this will be fun. I will keep you guys posted.